I'm going to be telling you about the differences between training at altitude in Kenya, the most visited place is Iten, and training at altitude in Uganda, here in Kapchorwa. Now this is based on my knowledge and experience of the two places, which is in depth about Kapchorwa. I'm based here. In terms of Iten, I've been there, I have friends there, and I also schooled in the region. That's what my knowledge is based on. And the topics I'm going to be covering are the different training environments, culture, language, food. Now, first thing to say is that Iten is more commercialized than Kapchorwa. There is more training facilities, there are gyms, more accommodation options. And that's expected. It has a much longer history in athletics. Now, that's not to say that that region of Kenya is all highly commercialized. There are some less commercialized options, such as Kaptagat, if what you're looking for is a less commercialized Kenyan experience. Now, in terms of the training environment, the altitude of Iten town is higher than Kapchorwa. Iten is at 2,400 meters. Kapchorwa is at 1,900 meters. Now, whilst that means that most of your sessions are going to be at higher altitude in Iten than in Kapchorwa, the athletes in Kapchorwa will commonly do sessions higher than the town. So in an area called Teriet, at the track there and the surrounding forests, that's at 2,500 meters. And they'll do sessions lower than the town in an area called Bulambuli at 1,100 meters. And that offers advantages to your training. Now, in terms of the terrain itself, Kapchorwa is hillier than Iten. Now, those of you who've been out to Iten may be surprised by this, because Iten in itself is quite hilly. But Kapchorwa, the commonly run routes by the athletes are hillier than Iten, and that's mainly because Kapchorwa is on the slopes of a mountain rather than being on the side of a rift valley like Iten. Now, in terms of the roads, you're going to find a mix of dirt and tarmac paved roads in both of the towns. The differences of the roads are that in Iten, their dirt roads tend to have better drainage than the ones in Kapchorwa, so they are less muddy after rain. But one of the challenges I found when I was out training in Iten was that I found that their dirt roads tended to be rockier than the ones here in Kapchorwa. Now, another difference in terms of the environment is that we get more rainfall here in Kapchorwa than they do in Iten. So the environment tends to be greener for a longer duration in the year than it is in Iten. Now, in terms of culture, that is the same. So the Kalenjin are the predominant tribe in Iten, and here in Kapchorwa it's the Sebei people. That's a subgroup of the Kalenjin, so that's the same. Now, in terms of language, my experience is that English is more widely spoken in Kapchorwa than it is in Iten, and in general for Uganda as compared to Kenya. And that's because of Swahili, which is a predominant local language in Kenya, easy means of people of different tribes to communicate between each other. We don't have such a predominant local language here in Uganda and tend to use English quite frequently as a way of communicating between different tribes. In terms of food, very similar between the two places. So in terms of things like ugali, we call that posho here, fresh produce, fresh veg, fruit, is going to be widely available in both places. I guess one of the differences I've noticed is that we tend to eat more plantain, so we call it matoke in Uganda, than they do in Kenya. So that's a list of differences between the two places from my experience. What might be helpful is that if any of you watching have been to both places, you could let us know in the comments about your experience. I think that would be helpful to other viewers. Thank you.